Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing our Transvaal run here in Victoria 3. This run really started out being highly gold-based. Gold was like 90% of our economy, and if we take a look here and we look at our national revenue, gold's now down to about 40% of our national revenue, and so, and this will, or minting is rather, this isn't entirely gold. In fact, a big chunk of it, close to half of it, is not gold. It's just from the size of our GDP. It is getting boosted by the gold company, which boosts all minting, however, but we're still getting a big chunk from gold, but it's really coming down, and we're starting to look much more like a normal nation, especially as, you know, the GDP grows. Eventually, once we hit 200 million GDP, we will stop getting additional minting from GDP, and so we're starting to look kind of normal, and then we are building a new industrial base here in Persia. We're still dealing with, of course, the bug in 1.5.12, which is that you get control of only a quarter of your queue on laissez-faire. Interventionism is probably just better, but, like, I just can't bring myself to pass it. And so, you know, this has meant we are mainly building government buildings, and I was kind of reflecting on this between last episode and this episode, and you see, like, we just have, like, it's just government buildings and wood shops and, like, rubber and iron mines, and the iron mines are really good because we have a company for it, so they're very construction efficient and, like, this type of thing. And I was just reflecting, there's no way our economy gets anywhere near, like, this density of rural goods as it is right now, without the auto queue just being able to go absolutely ballistic throughout this entire game. So I'm curious if we would have been able to, because I don't think we can do it now because it takes 15 years to annex them and we haven't kneecapped them yet. But I'm curious if we would have been able to come up fast enough to, you know, annex all of the Great Britain, and then once you annex all of Great Britain as Transvaal, if you annex Cape Colony, you can form Cape Colony, and then if you're a Cape Colony, you have primary culture English, and if you have primary culture English and there's no UK, you can actually found the UK. So the ultimate meme run for Transvaal would be doing this. I think this is outside of our grasp here as things have you know, unfolded here, and I'm just curious if we had a normal looking control, because so many things in Victoria 3 are just like small advantages that snowball over time. And so, like, if we had been able to build better buildings, more capitalist buildings where we get more free money modifiers for investment pool transfer, like these types of things that allow you to get advantages over the AI in the first place, I wonder how much better we could have done. And so with that in mind, this might be the last episode as well, you know, just kind of trying to round out a nice little snippet for ourselves. Last episode, we did kind of expand and get the market big, and I think what we'll try and do is we'll try and map paint a nice looking chunk of both East Africa, you know, everything east of Tripolitania, or maybe even Tripolitania itself. We'll try and get as much of this as we can, especially now that we're colonizing quickly, you know, and get a nice looking borders, more so than perhaps the best conquering, because, like, Quasmid states really not ever worth going for. They actually cost a lot of infamy because they have a decent chunk of pop, but we might go for them anyways, just to, you know, clean up the borders and this type of thing. Anyways, let's get into it. So something we are doing is we are ramping up construction quite a bit here, and I was having a conversation with someone, and they were making the argument that deficit spending is not really that great. And, you know, I think that this is something that's actually pretty hard to evaluate because there's a lot of moving parts, and one of the major parts of deficit spending being good is that it juices up your economy, it increases the price of things in your economy, and it allows, you know, which has a cascade effect. It spins more money into the economy, and it's hard to evaluate, you know, what the value of, like, how much it increases your economy. It's, like, difficult to mathematically model, and their argument was on the basis of, you know, you won't pay it back in a very long time, which you would pay it back if it increases the size of your economy by a certain size, and, like, you pay it back faster than the mathematics allowed for. But anyways, this is one of the reasons why we haven't been deficit spending as aggressively this run, is I'm kind of trying to keep it a little bit more under control than normal, as long as we are a major power. However, this is our prestige, 875. We only need 885 to go over into being a great power. And I definitely think once we're a great power here, well, first of all, we will have to wash away the dream of ever joining someone's customs union. That's gone. That's done. But secondly, if we are a great power, then deficit spending gets a lot better. So what we're going to do is we're going to blast construction to the moon, and we are just going to really push it. Now, we're going to push it to some degree in the places we already have industrial kind of sectors built up. We are not happy about that. And then we're also going to build in the places that we have newly incorporated traded or that are fresher in corporations that we know we can build up. A lot of these places have really good resources, and we're going to look to build up in these places as well. And so, and to be fair, this will also give us control of a lot more construction once we have like all this in. But we're going to try and shoot for 1,000 construction over the next year or two, and actually really deficit spend, but hoping that you know, our interest payments actually going to shoot down as soon as we get to the GP territory, and then be in much better shape overall, like be able to re-inject really hard. Also, proportionally, our economy, we are starting to get a lot more steel and iron than we had previously, and are starting to get a little less agrarian, and so this is going to be helping us out. This is going to be helping us out in the long term, you know, for so deficit spending is much better. Deficit spending for construction if you have a disproportionately large amount of construction goods, and I'm not entirely sure that was the case before, but we're starting to get there, and so hopefully we can move in that direction. We're trying to export stuff like iron and steel and like these types of things. Well, actually, we're importing steel right now. We want to get off of that though. We want to stop doing that. In fact, we'll take a look at all our trade routes. I think we might have some unprofitable steel trade routes. No. But, like, look, so we're, like, importing steel from France. It's not a very big route, though, so it's... I guess we'll start nuking some of these routes. We really want to kind of do it ourselves, because when we spend a bunch of money to juice up prices by adding a lot of construction to deficit spend, it helps if we're juicing up prices of industries we actually have in our country. Okay, so having a thought for a play pattern that we don't really engage in too often, we have this big agrarian guy, and to be fair, our trade unionists might be coming on up to eventually kind of be the ruler more, but our current ruler is the agrarian guy. And there's something interesting we can do, although, to be fair, we do kind of like this colony growth speed, which that thing is, we can ensure that we get, you know, a really nice trait just by promoting a guy to government who has a trait that we like. And we actually really like cautious, which gives minus influence, which, to be fair, that's not what we're here about, but instead it would give minus 20% infamy generation. And it gives extra group approval, which is kind of nice, especially because these guys are fairly likely to not approve of what we're doing, and he's a radical, so we have a lot of the laws he already likes. We have guaranteed loops, we have protected speech, we have universal suffrage, and we have parliamentary republic. So he's probably going to be relatively happy. But the thing we're here about is the, you know, minus infamy generation. The negative infamy generation stuff, these are the best traits that you could have. And so what we could do is we could recruit that guy and then promote him to government, just so you know, we can be good on that front. And so I think we're going to try this. So we're going to invite this guy, and then we are going to promote him, grant him leadership, and then he should become the leader of the country. I said he should become the leader of the country. I said he should become the leader of the country. Okay, there, he's the leader. Right? Yeah. With his mutton chops and everything. And so we're not going to try and pronounce his name, but now we have a cautious guy who's going to generate less infamy for every single play that we engage in. And I think we're a little bit more legitimate with the radical instead of the other guy. And this guy is a little bit happier, so I think we're going to lose this malice. Or no, we're not going to lose the malice. Well, that's a shame, but he is going to be a little happier with us overall, and so that's going to be good for us. Is he also trying to agitate? No, he's not trying to agitate, but minus 20% infamy generation. This means we can make bigger plays more often and still stay without being a naughty boy. So now that we're a great power, we are losing a ton of money, not because we're a great power, because we, you know, added a ton of construction, but now that we're a great power, if we take a look at our interest, it's basically cut in half, and so we're paying half as much on the interest, and so we can probably outgrow this faster than it's accumulating. Of course, it'd be much easier if we actually had full control of the queue, because we could build more intelligence stuff. Can we increase this high enough? No, we can't increase enough to get another consumption tax in, but this is going to help for passing laws a little bit, I guess. And so this is going to be pretty nice for us. And we are looking around for a war, and I'm not really sure what the best war for us to do. We'll probably look to reduce autonomy in all of our subjects in various spots. I think that Well, so we could go for a war that would allow us to slot in a good company. We did get another company slot, and to be honest, we're just using generics. We're using the generic mining and like this type of stuff, and I feel like we can do a little bit better. But we also might not have enough time in the game to really incorporate stuff and actually be able to make use of stuff. Like, we would love Beijing, but I don't even think we could take the Heavenly Kingdom, to be honest. They have army power projection of 5k. We have, well, I guess we're pretty close. Interesting. So we'll have a think as to where we can really expand next here. Alright, so this is going to be a really important inflection point for us, and that is going to be the annexation of the Sikh Empire, because we have a population of around 20 million. They have a population of 18.7 million. They currently can't migrate to us because they have closed borders. However, as soon as we conquer them, this will open the floodgates and allow Punjab, all these Punjabi pops to, you know, emigrate, and there's a ton of unemployed, so they're really wanting to emigrate. There will be a ton of push, and it'll just flood up kind of everything, and hopefully you know, kind of facilitate this huge negative balance we're running, because we added, like, we nearly doubled construction already. So we're going to go for them, and hopefully we can get them. We can certainly win this fight if there's no meddling of any part or of any kind from someone else, and even if there is some meddling, we'll probably, I mean, I don't know who would meddle that we could not. Actually, I think Russia's the chief one we would have to be concerned about here, but we do have a decent chunk of infamy at this juncture. You know, we kind of went after Quasmid State. We are notably also bankrolling Shewa, with the entire idea being, we're just going to absolve the obligation. The entire idea behind this bankroll is we want to give them more money because we actually want them to eat the rest of Ethiopia for us. And while we have a ton of infamy, we might do stuff like ban slavery in Gojam and then feed them to Shewa and try and sway Shewa to our side. And in doing so, allow us to, you know, kind of clean up this kind of border at the very least. And so I think this is something we will go for. Doesn't look like anyone's siding against us. So I think we will, you know, mobilize a little bit of, well, we actually don't want, here, let's send this guy too. We don't want any, like, medium stacks that are used for pushing, because then they'll just push and waste the push. Like, so we would not want to put this army in, for instance, because this guy will just push in, and you don't borrow troops on offense, or this seems to be the phenomenon that I'm noticing, even though they've said specifically you're supposed to be able to borrow troops on offense, which means you kind of just want to push with death stacks only, and then defend with medium and small size stacks, at least at this juncture. And so we're just gonna, yeah, this should be fairly easy. Ooh, extra conversion. Increases tensions. We don't mind the tensions too much, but we also don't mind the negative approval, so there we go. Easy enough. Annexing the Sikh Empire. After this, we can largely just kind of chill, because we do have quite a bit of infamy, but this is going to, okay, immediately it's an extra 10 million GDP, so that's nice. But we will be able to see, oh, look at our pop graph. Our pop graph is nuts, bro. It's like an additional third, you know, overall pop. This will be very expensive to incorporate. This is not going to be a place we're going to incorporate anytime in the near future, but we're going to reset the production methods in these places. Hopefully this doesn't cause shortages, but what we really want to take a look at is what happens after we unpause. Right now they have negative pop growth. How many pops are going to emigrate? How big is the exodus going to be if we let the game think for a minute? And that's how many that are going to be leaving a year, and they are just going to be heading to all of our provinces. And so the amount that can leave is based on the total pop. The amount that could enter is based on the infrastructure. We have more than enough infrastructure to accept kind of the max, and so this will drain down the unemployment that we have here. We also can build here a little bit, but we probably won't because there's a bunch of turmoil, but we do want to keep an eye on if we are going to be running shortages because of the PMs we are using. So for example, when we swap everything, it kind of swaps all these PMs and stuff as well, and so it is a little bit tedious, but this is going to be particularly nice for us, not for that, because we are going to, every place is just going to have basically enough labor to do whatever they want, which means we can build really efficiently because we can build all the resources out in all these places and have more than enough workers. Not that I think we were running out of workers super hard in, like, even these areas. Yeah, we're just super, like, uncapped right now, and so we should be doing pretty good, and this is why we're being bit aggressive, perhaps too aggressive with the money. We also have a bunch of excess bureaucracy now, and so we will look to get some areas in to incorporation that we had kind of been putting off in the in all of Persia here, and we have a bunch in the queue, a bunch more government administrations, but this number is the amount of bureaucracy required is going to keep going up as we get more pops from Punjab immigrating to the rest of the place. But we should be in pretty good shape here, and then our GDP should adjust up pretty quickly here, even just like week to week as the PMs and stuff starts to adjust. Yeah, you see just plus 2 million from last week, and then if we wait another week, it's probably plus 1 million, and then it'll settle somewhere close to 110 million, which is going to give us access to more like money printing ability. And so hopefully we can build into this though, because maybe this is a little bit too much. Finally, after a deep and long slumber, the U.S. is going after Mexico, demanding the usual stuff, and we are going to try and help Mexico out, which is going to make the U.S. not very happy with us, but that's going to be their problem, not our problem. We are probably going to put in on all defense, and just look to wear them down. We have a ton of infamy ourselves currently, and so we can stand to just like get caught up in a really long war and really do a whole bunch of nothing for an extended period of time. This is not something we would mind, and so we're probably going to do exactly that. We will recruit up a little bit more in some spots just to kind of make sure that we're on the safer side. We'll recruit up more for the battalion that's just going to sit at home, up to a 15 stack, and then with our landing stack, we're going to mobilize them, but we're also going to keep them at home, and then these guys, to be honest, we just need to reorganize, and so we're probably going to put them into various other armies. It's stuff like guys we conquered out of Punjab in various HQs, but this is going to... Hopefully they don't back down, because that's insane, because everything's a primary demand. Surely you don't back down here. That would be absolute psychosis. But we started improving relations with Mexico as well, and I think that we can prevent the U.S. from making any sort of progress. One thing we do have to worry about is the U.S.'s Navy, which is bigger than ours, but ours isn't terribly small, and if we do have to fight them again, I think it was last episode, we definitely struggled with a lot of the fighting of the navies, but what we will do is we will move all of these admirals to different navies, so that we only have one admiral, so that all of our troops get brought to bear, and then we will merge both of our navy stacks so that we just have a single stack. We definitely have to keep recruiting up on the navy though, and perhaps we should even be pushing some of the tech. We are trying to slingshot on steam turbine and electrical capacitors. We are letting the natural spread cover most of the stuff, so we're going to let the natural spread finish shift work and threshing machine, and then we're going to look to get steam turbine and capacitors back to back as kind of our strategy here. I'm not sure how good it is for us to be like kind of forcing the electricity stuff, and in a lot of ways the electricity stuff feels bad, but they haven't gone psychotic yet with the auto queue, and so that's good for us. And really the first PM really sucks, and the second PM is much better, and so we're gonna hope to be able to get onto that as well, and then kind of try and pop off a little bit with the electricity. After that, we might come back, though, and start taking a look at some of these military PMs, because we are starting to emerge on the world stage and actually mix it up with people. So here we are. We also have to finish universities for, like, forever. We've been trying to finish these. Alright, a bit of a moment of truth here. We have consolidated the Navy under one gentleman, and he will be fighting the U.S. Navy, which has monitors and ironclads. We have torpedo boats and ironclads, a little bit of an upgrade relative to them, and we have way more, so we should clap the absolute clap out of them, and we just waiting to see on the battle. They will be raiding us on another node, but we didn't really want to split up and try and play whack-a-mole in that way, although the negative, this is going to be affecting the combat efficacy of our troops, which are just starting to get to the fronts here, and so hopefully those will be able to hold off the USA. The foundations of military stuff. So we also have the positivist event chain. I haven't experienced this one too much. I don't really think we want to lean into the positivist. So I think we would rather suppress this. So let's do that, because we're kind of okay with what we got going on, but we do want to see how the first battle here kind of shapes out. Really hate how long it takes for battles to... Okay, well... So we just got to raid. Oh my god, they got to raid us without a battle, and then they get to move on. Whack-a-mole time. So where are you headed, my guys? That's nice for us. Let's take a look and see if we have any... Okay, so we still have one in order to avoid the ahead of time malice, so we'll just kind of keep on keeping on. We just want to catch one of your navies, my guy. They're just going to run around, man. Alright. We'll follow them. We'll look to get a battle at some point here. Alright, we finally get a battle after we get a raiding tick on us. I don't know, I think I don't like the fact that they can get a raiding tick before we get a battle tick, because in theory what you can do is you can actually send in raiders and then raid, wait for a tick, and then move them, and then you won't actually get intercepted at any point, I don't think. Or maybe it depends on whatever interception modifiers you have in this type of thing, and so I don't think we want the bureaucracy malice, I don't think we want to pay money, so we'll eat the lack of approval, but this guy will get sent back to the Shadow Realm after we beat him, and then we'll move over here, and we'll beat both of these guys. And also, the U.S. is not really making enough progress, and so I'm guessing this is going to be an eventual white piece, but it is going to be a little expensive. We deleted down some of the construction. We'll probably delete down a little bit more. Yeah, so like here's the thing: if we have four admirals, what's going to happen is we would instead be using 1/4 of the ships and just single filing them into the enemy. And so this is why it's important we have one admiral. That's kind of a stupid system because it means that you effectively actually don't want to have multiple admirals in any sort of navy, I think. Because of how the like borrowing works on them. Discontent in the Kingdom of Paris has led to the seizure of the city of Paris as revolutionary. France is now split with two governments, that of Paris and that of Versailles. Well, I think we don't want to have an interest in this. We actually don't really care if they go communism. I think we might go communism at some point in the near future anyways, but we'll just be waiting and, you know, chasing around their navies with our navy while our troops just hold position here and just look to play defense only, which I don't think they can push into, at least not at a rate that is going to be fast enough for them to take all their war goals in a timely manner. We weren't able to save Mexico, and unfortunately this is the eyesore of a war, like war end that's coming through. One of the parts that was kind of annoying is, so this is our like home defense army. This army actually doesn't have its home HQ in our home HQ, it has it in Zanj, so we actually got landed. And despite you know, us trying to set the home HQ differently, we have been unable to. You see, we cannot change the home HQ, and we've tried to do this multiple times. In theory, what we really should do is we should just create a new army out of here. That way the home HQ will be proper. That way when we raise this guy just to defend, he will properly defend. So that's unfortunate, and this is our punishment. The punishment is having Colorado right in the middle of... Yeah, so yeah, there we go. This is definitely not what we wanted, and now the USA doesn't like us. So overall, that's pretty bad for us, but... Okay, and we could rival them back. I don't know if they'll keep rivaling us, but we did also back the Ottoman religious revolt here. And this one is going quite well for us, and we should be able to pull them into the customs union following, you know, the eventual capitulation here, which we are a-okay with this type of thing. We have a couple uprisings, we're putting them down, and so we should be fine from here. We got one in Greece. I guess we'll move these guys over here to deal with the... Ooh. Do we have to land? We have to land. That's a little bit annoying. In the Aegean Islands. Wait, how are we not at war with communist Greece? Brother. It says we're at war. Is this going to be one of those? Not at war with communist Greece? Is this real talk? Or is this... Are we already occupied? Controlled by Greece. Okay, so we're taking them down anyways. Fair enough. And now, Turkey. Hey! And we can propose a trade agreement, which will give us positive relations, and we have an obligation, so we will be able to pull them into the customs union almost certainly by the time this pops off. So that'll be nice for us for the purposes of trying to, you know, get a nice big Transvaal market for the end here. So I think that, you know, the electricity becomes pretty good once you get capacitors, this tech, and the other electricity tech that gives you the coal, steam turbine that is. a lot of these PMs are really, really strong. It's just like also really incredibly tedious to turn on all these things. And it does help out a little bit, some of the changes that they've made, where we could go this and we could exempt some and it'll only swap some of them, but this only goes so far. It's still going to be a pretty bit of a slog. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to go through all of the stuff that requires electricity and, you know, take a closer look at it and swap on everything. So we're just checking every single thing. We're just going to click exempt on all of these, but then we're going to come back in after we do that. I think there's a couple more. Yeah, so we'll do this, we'll exempt, we'll do this, we'll exempt, and then we will be able to take a look at prices. So we're going to come in here, and we've set it up to just look at staple goods, and then we're going to look at electricity, and we're going to let the game think for a second, and then we are going to play a little bit of whack-a-mole with every place that has expensive-looking electricity. We're going to add some to the queue. We've already added to the queue in these places specifically, so it looks like, well, it's plus 75, so how big is the shortage is the question, which is like, how big is your shortage of electricity, my guys? So you need another 50 to stop running a shortage. Yeah, it's just like, it's just tedious, but I think that the extra ones we put in the queue will cover it, so, but we'll put in some more. But this is like the methodology for like kind of being able to make it so you can swap onto these things. We don't have electric rails swapped anywhere. I think that this is the one that we didn't swap, and this is going to be the one that actually takes the most power. If we do this and we exempt, ooh, I'm shocked that even one swapped. So let's take another look and see if anything just looks ballistically expensive that was not ballistically expensive before. Not really. These are the places where we have shortages. You see here, we have a pretty big shortage here of, you know, at least 50, but other than that the shortages aren't too bad. So Freestadt actually has the worst shortage here, but the 4 that are coming in should be a little bit better. And so this menu as well kind of helps out a little bit for, you know, trying to resolve some of this stuff. Why don't we actually also put in, and we're putting these at the front of the queue, a couple in these places, and so we can try and so here's another thing is you have to eventually force some of them and not exempt all of them. So if we go to Luristan, we might, you know, take a look and see that there's actual no consumption going on. This isn't the case because we can see that there's some consumption, but when you put in your first building, it won't be profitable either when you like try and swap your very first building. So generally, I like to come in and swap with specifically the wood and force all the sawmills because this one is both really efficient and it doesn't require a whole lot, and then it kind of seeds the electricity in there, but it is a tedious thing. We're gonna get through it though. The AI is back at it again, annexing French Niger after just releasing French Niger, which is an interesting strategy. Let's see if it pays out for France. We also can now get the Ottoman Empire into the customs union using the obligation, which is going to be fantastic for us. They accept, and then we have a nice, much bigger customs union, and it's also a geographically nice looking customs union. Look at that Transvaal market. It's big, it's huge, it's nice. Now we are also going to go into domestic and see what's up, see what's going on. They have no migration controls, so that means almost certainly we are going to be siphoning off their migrants. So if we take a look here, I guess we're not siphoning off. This is probably siphoning to us though. These like 1 to 2,000s that are leaving. That was that minus 233. That's a big number. That's a heckin' big number. In fact, if we do this, we can kind of see the migration attraction. We see it's pretty red, and so this is going to help us out. Now we're not siphoning off migrants, for example, from Egypt here, which is a bit unfortunate, and we wish that we were, but we would need to be able to swap them onto closed borders. We can try and swap them, but we just a few moments ago tried to swap them onto passing homesteading, and I guess they started to pass it, and then they decided, nah, we're not going to do that. So we can't really force them to put it in. I suppose we could, you know, protectorate them, but this would be a lot of infamy. If we got low enough, I mean, maybe this would be good. But I think if we're trying to improve the borders as much as possible, we actually have to go after Portugal, who is currently a subject of Austria. And so, you know, we are damaging relations with Austria. I suppose we could just do this and then break it. they accept the trade agreement, and then in a year's time we could break the trade agreement, which would deteriorate it by the relations by 10. But it's going to be a while before we get Austria down low enough that we can go after Portugal. I'm not sure if we'll continue this long. I think we're looking to mainly just get up to 1K construction. Although we're kind of starting to pop off with the electricity, we're researching Zeppelins. Pan-nationalism will finish before we get to the full malice, so we'll probably just do Zeppelins into corporate charters here, unlock another company, and then, maybe turn our eye back towards perhaps going for something like plastics into compression ignition, or even going for some Miltech. We've kind of been skimping on the Miltech front. Definitely behind on the university, struggle bus. Trying to get the electricity up and going is a little tedious, and we have yet to complete these universities, and so this is severely hampering us. So I think the combustion engine tech is actively bad, because I think automobile production, the tech is so bad that I think it's not worth using. Kind of with a period at the end of that sentence. And so you're supposed to, I have to test this out a little bit more, but I think you're supposed to just let your pops eat plus 75% expensive autos, and then you don't use them for anything. And so you're not going to use public motor carriages. You're not going to use truck transport on the PMs, because this forces you into the autos, and you just rather use the train transport. And so the only thing you really get off of this is combustion engine derricks. And so you'd actually, I think, rather just not have the tech. But while maybe combustion engine derricks are okay, you'd certainly rather not spread something else. But this is an interesting thing that requires a lot more testing on my end, but we will swap on to the better PM here. If we had a big enough glut of oil and rubber, which I suppose maybe we do, if these prices are super collapsed, maybe this could justify turning on the autos PM. But if you use electric engines, which is what we have, which is better than standard engines, rotary valve engine, and then what's the last PM and automobiles, and everything's at base price, the productivity of the building, or the output of the building, is actually negative. So this is a situation where the automobiles have to be close to plus 75, and the input goods also have to be cheap, or the input goods have to be cheap in order for the building to be profitable. And so and then it eats into your engine supply, and then you kind of don't want to build a ton of motor industries, because their inputs tend to be expensive, because steel tends to be expensive. And so you think this through to its logical conclusion, and so even though it says the substitution's big nice, it's not big nice. And so I think that the PM is just not worth using, and so bummer that we got it. So I think we're going to conclude the episode and run here. We, I think, roughly tripled construction, so I guess the story of this episode is mainly us just kind of ramping up construction. I mean, we got a lot of the electricity type PMs. We're starting to hit some of the later stuff. We're starting to hit a little bit of a stride. I mean, we were pretty late on getting into the university game just because of how the way the construction fell. And you look at this, we don't have EOS in a lot of places, economies of scale, that is. In a lot of ways, this is pretty rough. In a lot of ways, we have a lot of room to grow. If we take a look at our graph, we are going pretty vertical relative to the number one GP, or the number one economy, which is the UK, and so we would probably pass them in the next episode or two, but there's no shot that we have enough time to kneecap them and annex them, which would be the meme thing to do with, Transvaal. I think we did kind of, over the course of this run, show off just how explosive, despite the discrimination, how explosive the gold mines are. But we definitely struggled a lot with the bug, the construction bug, only giving us 25% in the queue. There's just really long stints of time where we were running negative bureaucracy because we couldn't clear the queue, where we couldn't get the innovation because we couldn't clear the queue, and we couldn't really control what it was, how we wanted our economy balanced, much more into the mines than the auto queue was doing with all of the plantations. And so this was a little bit unfortunate. Normally, if the thing is building at 75%, this means that they're paying 75% of the goods. But if you take a look at here, the construction goods, the total construction good cost is $740K. The investment pool is only paying through $300K. So in theory, they should only have control of around 40% of the queue. And if you haven't like a situation where they're paying for 75%, you're elated because then they're paying for 75% of the goods, and you can probably increase construction. This hasn't been the case. The way it's like the bug works is if they're paying anything, I think is the way the bug works, or at least like one building, they get access to 75% of the queue. And so we had to build a lot of inefficient buildings as a result of this. And so maybe this is one to revisit later. It might be the case that it's no longer possible to swap or to like go after the UK, but I think it probably is if we didn't have this bug, because every effect you get in sorry, part of me wants to swap everything to the better PM, but almost every effect that you get in like Victoria 3 or like things compound, and you know, when you get enough like investment pool to, because you had more logging camps that have better investment pool contribution because they're capitalist owned relative to plantations, and then you build another building, and then that building is accruing money, and it allows you to build another building faster and faster and faster and faster and stuff like this. And so that was definitely something we dealt with. But I do think the discrimination part of this run is actually pretty interesting. You know, how you have to play a little bit differently. How we had to, very early on, we were like just gold in universities, and so that was pretty interesting. For whatever reason, we kind of really low-rolled actually discovering all the gold in Transvaal. I think there's a total of 12 gold mines. We still haven't discovered all of them. But we did discover all of them in Freystadt, which is at least something. But I don't know what that's about. We still have 2 gold fields. That's a little bit of something. Let's just take a look at kind of the way things are. We decided to play until we hit the number 2 GDP spot. And also get over 1K construction. I thought that would be a nice little break point. You know, maybe it's 2 episodes, maybe it's 1 episode for us to catch up. If you take a look at our trajectory, it's much more vertical than everyone else, and so and also we just like tripled construction, and so I do think there's like a lot of room to pop off. If we take a look here, we have a lot of unincorporated population. That's because of our inability to build boats. We had to go after land that incorporates in 20 years, which is a little bit rough. Like going after South America would have been much better, but it is what it is. You know, we still have a ton of peasants. We have the 12 million pops and then 8 million peasants. And so, and to be fair, we're probably using too many labor-saving PMs over here, to be honest. Like, yeah, so this is perhaps a little bit of a leak. We started using a lot of them because we wanted to push migration, but to be honest, it's probably better to just push some of this, get better margins, and, you know, get the pops out from under this. The problem is then, like, then our queue would, we want our queue to be building, we want a ton of mines, and so, like, with the not controlling 75% of the queue, what happens if you de-peasant a bunch of pops, you'll get a bunch of consumer goods. Yeah, I'm not sure what the strategy, like, I'm not used to trying to think of what the strategy is if the queue always gets control of 75%. Like it, so perhaps we shouldn't have been using labor-saving PMs here, though. Well, to be fair, a lot of our peasants are also here. Which is like, this is just a population battery for the rest of our country. And so like it's really like 2 million lower, and the whole idea is that they just leave here and go everywhere else. And so, okay. You know, we have a decent SOL. It's not the best. It's actually behind France, but that's kind of the only huge power it's behind. I guess it's behind Scandinavia as well, something like this. And then as far as population goes, we're actually in pretty good shape, kind of creeping up on Great Britain, still behind Russia, but like our population graph looks absolutely insane. You know, coming from, we started the game with like under 1 million population, and now we're here at like 60 million. And so this is a pretty significant, you know, increase. And it is much bigger than, yeah, much bigger than everyone else. But anyways, this run was interesting. This run was fun. Definitely, like, a lot to play around. We were all, like, moving forward, or, like, just kind of predicting what would have happened, you know, with our GDP trajectory. I think we probably would maybe be beating up the UK in, like, 10-ish, 12-ish years, and kind of vying for global supremacy. We would have gotten most of this in Africa, and also tried to make some trade moves. something like this, trading some of these states to try and cut them out from the ability to like get an ingress into the more central portions. But we still would get a lion's share of this. Probably would have gone after Portugal for making the borders look nice. If we take a look here, this is the market. We tried to get geographically like in this region. Shewa wasn't having any of going after other people, which is unfortunate, but we did get most of kind of a nice looking chunk of stuff. Also getting the Ottomans into our market is pretty good. With the changes that they made towards everyone starting out closed borders, or like all the unrecognized guys starting out closed borders, this makes it a lot harder to like get them in your market just to bleed them for pops. And so a country like Turkey, which they start out recognized, but then the old man of Europe generally out, and then they will have like no migration controls, but also like a ton of population. So you can see that this is when the country first rebelled, and then this is where they annexed the Ottoman Empire, and then their pop, I think this right here is when they joined our market, and their pop's been trending down ever since because we've been siphoning off so many migrants, which is like why one of the reasons like our graph is kind of a little bit ballistic. We have more loyalists than radicals. Here's kind of the heat map for that. I think that the heat map for like migration also tells a little bit of a story, so let's take a look at that. I throughout this run was experimenting a little bit with trying to push the labor-saving PMs a little bit more aggressively for the purposes of trying to drive migration, and to some extent that was successful, but like you would rather have more money to build more stuff. But here's like the migration map where we have like Transvaal has a very strong attraction. Persia looks relatively good, but we're still behind stuff like the UK. The UK has a really big economy, and so we're pretty far behind them. As far as endgame companies, this is what we ended with. There's probably something a little bit better. I kind of like the tooling workshops. I kind of like the setup overall. Really surprised at how many coal mines we have. I guess this is because we're using a lot more labor-saving PMs than we normally do, so I thought that this one was a little bit interesting. The gold mines, this would still be probably worth using for quite some time, but we were about to pull up on getting another company, at which point I think maybe the wood-rubber one would have made a lot of sense, especially because we're building a lot of rubber. And I think that, so the thing is like, the other rubber PMs aren't very effective here. Like, I think Elastics is not very good, to be honest, because, like, most of the efficiency you get from Craftsman Sewing. So Craftsman Sewing, like, you need to have really, really expensive, let's pull up the luxury goods. Let's see Paul Allen's goods. Can we not highlight both at the same time? So, okay. So it's minus 5% on the clothes and plus 8% on the regular clothing. I think you need the luxury goods to be quite a bit more expensive than the regular clothes for like the PM to like really make sense to use for elastics now, because the rubber tools PM like generally makes more sense, and on a like per resource basis, like the margin between non-luxury and Craftsman Sewing is much more efficient between these two than Craftsman Sewing to elastics, like if you take a look at the PM. And so and then the tools PM is just insane. So like this might make more money, but this, like, let's say this makes plus 1.4k. I think that 1.4k won't actually pay for the margin by which this PM gets worse, if that makes any sense. So like we would lose more money swapping by increasing the price of rubber for all the tooling workshops than we would generate by swapping onto elastics. And so that's kind of why I think elastics just isn't very good anymore. And another reason why automobile sucks. To be fair, I'm not like 100% sure that the PM's just like never worth using, but I kind of think it is, especially because what it's supposed to do is when you research the PM, it's actually supposed to create demand instantly, and then your pops will want the thing. We didn't see any demand. No demand was created, and so we're definitely not going to create an initial demand for automobiles if we don't have to, because what will happen is the price will get really expensive. Then we'll have to swap over motor industries. Then we'll have to build motor industries. It's an 800 production cost building. The margins on it won't be very good, even if we do turn on the automobiles, because the PM is trash, and the inputs for it tend to be expensive. And so, like, if we find like a motor industry, so here's going to be a motor industry where we actually have a lot of steel. Like, if we take a look, steel is almost always going to be expensive because the steel PM is not that efficient. And then, like, electricity is generally going to be expensive. Okay, tools will probably run cheap, and then coal will maybe run cheap. Tools will run cheap because the rubber tools PM is so good, but, like, you take all this together, and it's like, it means that the inputs for this are going to be expensive. So you'll have an equilibrium where the engines are more expensive, and then if you add that on top of, like, needing, like, the margins to be so good, like the tooltips just lie to you, man. Like, it will make more money, but it'll force you to build a higher percentage of motor industries than you would otherwise like to do, because it also decreases the amount of motors you have. It also uses 1,500 more workers. So I guess specifically if you're trying to, like, de-peasant really aggressive, which kind of is the situation we're at a little bit, maybe it makes sense to turn on. I don't know. Anyways, starting to ramble a little bit here. This was the Transvaal run. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Do the YouTube... North German Sinai. Do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a good one.